It's the dawn of a new technological age. An object of immense power is here. It's capable of creating any item the mind desires. And soon, the invention becomes available everywhere. The people push it to its full potential, making unheard of leaps in all fields. But one of its creations triggers concern. The shocking thing is, this story is true. Welcome to the future of 3D printing. Batman's utility belt was cool, but its basic purpose was to hold his pants up. I liked Iron Man's suit, but an electromagnet embedded in the chest can't be too good for your body. And Wonder Woman's invisible plane seems like a pain to find in a parking lot. In my opinion, the best comic book gadget of all time is the Green Lantern's power ring. It can materialize items out of thin air. Whatever the wearer can imagine, the ring can make. And now, it's no longer fiction, even though you can't exactly wear it on your finger just yet. 3D printing is writing its own story, one filled with its own super gadgets, its own heroes, and even its own villains. 3D printing isn't new. It was invented nearly 30 years ago for industrial prototyping.
We call this technology three-dimensional printing.
You dream up an idea, plot it out on your computer, and then presto, out comes an exact model.
Here's how it works. The solid object is created out of liquid plastic. The liquid plastic hardens so that the 3D model is created layer upon layer from the bottom up.
And now, 3D printing is mainstream.
There's lots of things that contributed to that. Certainly the maker movement of low-cost machines and hobbyists interested in inventing and building using 3D printing.
From kidneys to cars, people are printing the future. But not every printed object is met with approval.
The world's first 3D printed handgun was successfully fired in Texas. You heard me correctly there. Here's the gun's creator, Cody Wilson. He calls it the Liberator. Less than $60 in other materials was required.
Such a gun can be manufactured with no meaningful requirement for metal. So the potential exists for a black market of undetectable, untraceable, dangerous guns. A security nightmare.
That's right. Anyone with an inexpensive desktop 3D printer can download a file and print the parts of a working firearm in a few hours, making it the fastest way to get a gun in America, next to opening a checking account in Texas.
The ability to print a gun has divided Americans. On one side are those who claim that restricting access to printing plans, even for a handgun, amounts to a violation of free speech and the right to bear arms.
An attempt to stop people from making plastic guns could turn into an attempt by government to regulate use of 3D printers, potentially raising a question of censorship.
On the other side are those who argue that anyone with the desire has an easy, cheap, and effective way of manufacturing nearly undetectable weapons.
Now anyone, a terrorist, someone who's mentally ill, a spousal abuser, a felon, can essentially open a gun factory in their garage. And the only thing they need, a computer and a little over $1,000. No background check. And you don't even have to leave your house.
Either way, the media predicts a bleak future. So is it time to lock the doors and prepare for the end? The best way to find out is to see just how easy it is for an average American to print a 3D gun. The first step is to gain access to a 3D printer. Living in Montana can make it a little difficult to find cutting-edge technology, and on top of that, printed guns is a thing a lot of people want to stay away from. But finally, after contacting nearly 50 organizations, I find a group willing to help right here in my home of the Wild West. The group I meet is called the Montana Ethical Hackers. MEH is a hackerspace, a place for tech enthusiasts to meet and use shared resources. They're interested in anything from programming, building computers, and even 3D printing.
This type of 3D printer is a very reasonably priced model and good for hobbyists.
Developers like me can add features that they think they need or fix bugs as they see them.
You can't prototype extremely complicated objects on it, but you'd be surprised with how intricate of objects it can manage to make.
But before I print, there's one little thing that has me worried. Is 3D printing a gun legal?
Well, technically it's not illegal. You start with the act of downloading the design file, and that act is probably protected under the First Amendment and the right to freedom of speech. Then actually manufacturing the gun out of plastic may be a concern under the Undetectable Firearms Act of 1988. But so long as you maintain 3.8 ounces of steel within your manufacture, you should be able to stay within the realm of that law. The Gun Control Act of 1968 specifically does not prohibit the manufacture of your own weapon so long as you do not sell or distribute that weapon, particularly across state lines. State law could also come into play with this particular question, but as it stands today, it is not illegal to manufacture your own gun.
So am I going to go to jail over this?
I would say you're probably on somebody's watch list right now.
With my incarceration on hold, it's time to print the parts. The process isn't perfect, so mistakes are bound to happen. Some pieces have to be remade and the files reworked, but 18 hours later, I've made all the components. The parts require some refining before assembly, since the printer isn't as precise as top-of-the-line models. After adding the steel to make it legal, I can finally assemble the parts. With only a bit more cutting and grinding, I've successfully assembled a 3D printed gun. But one question still remains. Will it work?
I'm an armorer for our department. I take the firearms apart quite often, put them back together. I'm familiar with how they are disassembled, how they are assembled, and how they function.
What are the problems you see with this gun, and could it potentially fire if I tested it?
The problem that I see with this particular firearm, starting off, would be the barrel. It is a plastic barrel. I'm not sure that you would have the strength to contain the explosive of the cartridge inside of the chamber. You would have a possibility of the barrel coming apart, which could be a safety issue for the shooter. Also, the firing pin hole is pretty large, so you could get some gases escaping backwards towards the shooter. Without a doubt, this could very well work. I have some safety concerns with it. Just because the weapon would shoot does not mean that it would be safe to shoot. You could get injured pretty bad with something like that.
You wouldn't replace your service pistol with it, though?
Probably not, no.
So the future of 3D printing looks very bright, but the legal analyses that courts do have to do, whether it's guns or drug paraphernalia or VCRs, the literal case of the Betamax way back in the day, the question that the courts want to know is, does it have a legal purpose? Does it have some legitimate purpose that people would want this product? If it does, they're going to let it go. They're going to let the Few guys who'll find a way to make it criminal, have their way and let the Department of Justice go hunt them down and prosecute them. But they're going to let the product stand. And the thing about the plastic gun is because I don't think gun enthusiasts will take it seriously and actually want one. So what is its legitimate commercial purpose other than smuggling it onto a plane or into a courthouse? Subverting those security measures. What's its purpose? Does it have a legitimate legal purpose that a court will take seriously? The government, Congress, the public, they're going to have to decide where to draw lines about the availability of dangerous objects such as guns.
It wasn't easy, but in the end, I 3D printed a gun. Right now it's reserved to those that can afford the expensive price tag of a printer. But prices continue to drop to where it could potentially become a household object. Before that happens, we have a chance to take a step back and consider the amazing power we hold in our hands. The power to create limitless items, the power to decide a technology's future, the power to print.